With a flight path to Libya resolved, the terrorists can finally agree to swap the 15 hostages on board the plane for the flight crew and government officials waiting at the airport terminal. The exchange takes place on the airport tarmac, meters from the plane.
When Ramli Omar and myself, we walked up to the plane, and we were asked to sit down in the front compartment of the plane itself, with Ramli Omar seated in front, and I sat in the row behind him. And the other two Japanese hostages were also asked to sit one behind the other on the other side of the aisles.
10 hostages are released, but with 5 remaining, the situation turns ugly. Deputy Commander of Police Zaman Khan recalls the terrorists' hesitation to release the US consul and the Swedish diplomat.
Even at the last moment, when we exchanged the hostage with the Japanese prisoners, the Japanese Red Army were trying to hold back. They want us to hand over the Red Army prisoners first before they release the hostage. I said, no, you hand over. You hand over the last group of hostage, we'll give you the last friend of yours if you want.
The hostages wait in uncertainty over their fate. But the terrorists finally give in, and the hostages are released to the Malaysian authorities.
When I was released from the plane, I feel very relieved. Means that all these things happens according to the plan. Nobody got killed, and I feel that what has been done is good.
But for the Malaysian and Japanese government officials on board the plane, their drama is about to begin. Osman Kasim remembers being warned about disturbing the terrorists.
They were all at the back of the plane. After we have entered the plane, they drew the curtain and they told us that we are not supposed to go behind to the back.
As the Japanese pilots make their final preparations to depart for Libya, yet another problem occurs, preventing the plane from leaving Kuala Lumpur. 7th August 1975. A Japanese DC-8 plane is about to depart for Libya with 4 Malaysian and Japanese government officials as hostages for the 10 Japanese Red Army terrorists on board. But the negotiation team has another problem to resolve. There is not enough fuel to get the plane to Libya.
Yeah, the problem is that this was a DC-8 plane. It could not fly from Kuala Lumpur direct to Tripoli, Libya without refueling. So we need to have a country or an airport for the plane to stop and refuel.
One of the places where the aircraft got to stop was Sri Lanka, Colombo. But the Prime Minister then refused to allow the aircraft to land there to refuel.
Chief negotiator Ghazali Shafi'i speaks to the Sri Lankan Prime Minister.
After some persuasion, she agreed that the plane could stop at Colombo Airport and refuel, but on condition that the door of the plane should not be open.
If the plane doors open at all, Sri Lankan troops are under orders to open fire on the DC-8 aircraft. Ghazali agrees to the conditions, and after a delay of almost 30 hours, the plane finally takes off for Tripoli, Libya. On board the plane, Malaysian government hostage Osman Kasim recalls that the terrorists remained vigilant throughout the flight.
Throughout the journey, of course, they kept in touch with the pilot. You'll find them walking to the cockpit to keep an eye on the pilot of the plane to make sure that they don't take us to somewhere else.
After a safe refueling stopover in Colombo, Sri Lanka, the plane arrives in Tripoli without any incident. On 8 August 1975, 5 days since the siege on Kuala Lumpur, the Japanese Red Army's reign of terror ends in Tripoli.
When we arrived at Libya, some Libyan officials entered the plane and walked straight to the back of the plane to talk to the Japanese Red Army terrorists. After some time, the terrorists were asked to leave the plane, and as they walked past by, one of them offered his hand and shook my hand.
On 10th August, Malaysian government officials Ramli Omar and Osman Kasim returned to Malaysia as heroes. The 10 Japanese Red Army members are subsequently arrested, but there is a lack of evidence to incarcerate them.
So Libyan keep all members under house arrest, more than half a year, and of course they prepare the court by Libyan authorities, but they couldn't find out, so one by one they released.
The Japanese Red Army members continue their reign of terror for another 15 years, attacking 5 more embassies in Asia and Europe. After a 12-year hunt by the Japanese government, Japanese Red Army members worldwide are captured and sent back to Japan to face criminal charges. One of them is Masao Adachi.
I was arrested in Lebanon and forced to be sent back to Japan. I was using forged paper for enter Europe, some country and so on. So my criminal accusation is just only using the forged paper. In that case, you know, by the law of Japan, it's a maximum only 3 months imprisonment. But for court itself, it would take 1.5 years. So I was in prison 1.5 years.
In November 2000, Ms. Fusako Shigenobu, the ringleader of the Japanese Red Army, is arrested and given a 20-year sentence in 2006. In May 2007, Hario Wako, the mastermind behind the AIA building siege, is also arrested in Japan.
He himself recognized he was the chief for the Kuala Lumpur occupation embassy operation. Mr. Wako, he was sentenced for the life sentence, life imprisonment.
One of the world's most notorious organizations finally comes to an end. And despite a global campaign of terror, the Japanese Red Army never achieved its goals of taking over the Japanese government and monarchy, or securing a homeland for the Palestinians. In the 5-day Kuala Lumpur standoff, Adachi reveals the Japanese Red Army never harbored any intentions to harm the Malaysians.
First of all, I should say to the people of Malaysia and the Malaysian government, at that time we know it's a wrong activity, but necessary activity for us. So sorry, and so delayed. But first of all, I will apologize to the Malaysian people and the government.
I think on the whole, we did solve the matter out peacefully, without bloodshed, except for the 2 was shot earlier. And this is, I think, I give credit to Ghazali, you know. He seems to have the knack of persuading people.
At the end of the siege on Kuala Lumpur, 4 people were injured. AIA building security guard Sukhdev Singh, police constables Mahalingam and Kuamad Kurazak, and hostage Bernard Joseph. No lives were lost. In 2008, 33 years after the AIA building incident, former members of the negotiation team and hostages gather at the Swedish ambassador's house in Kuala Lumpur to honor Osman Kasim. Osman was one of 2 Malaysian government officials who boarded the plane to replace the 15 hostages, which included Swedish diplomat Fredrik Bergenstroller. For his bravery, Sweden awards Osman with a Royal Order of the Polar Star.
We handled it quite well, mainly because the Japanese government had agreed to the release of the 5 prisoners in Tokyo, which was the demand made by the terrorists that were in the AIA building.
During that times, the Malaysian government and other government as well, the Japanese government, are willing to negotiate with the so-called the government or the terrorists. So in that sense, I feel syukur, I feel pleased, syukur alhamdulillah, that's all. I am still alive now.
In 2009, Ulla Adquist, the former hostage from the Embassy of Sweden, visits the AIA building for the first time after 34 years. The Swedish Embassy, US Consulate, and AIA Insurance Office have relocated elsewhere.
Before taking a new step, you must be ready to leave the other steps behind. That doesn't mean that I will forget about it, but I am going forward. When we went to the AIA building, to the 9th floor, I could feel my heart was pounding a bit. And it was as if I found that part of my soul that I left behind.